Good evening. It's, what is it? Tuesday, December 28th. Anyway, I'm going to talk about expertise. Okay. So, I've talked in the past about how new technology can level the, the, the playing field, as they say, for people of all ages, in the sense that, some company has just introduced the Whizz 2000, whatever it does. It didn't exist 6 months ago. And everybody, regardless of their life experience or physical age, is equally ignorant about it, at least, for the first week or two, or potentially a year or two. And that I think has had a profound effect on our society that has gone unnoticed. And we talk about who's doing the work, and who's choosing to retire, and what does it mean to be aged out of a profession, and so forth and so on. And I can certainly see where, say if you're a graphic designer, I remember there was a point where they kept having to buy new sets of fonts because they were things were getting released every couple of years, and it was a big expense, and not everybody had access, and everybody was using up a lot of time on training and not as much time as on productivity, and so forth. So the new tech is not always a blessing, but it can be a form of an equalizer if someone, a geezer for instance, can keep up, can learn the new thing just as easily as the young person. Okay. Well, recently in the bus driving, something's come up, and I realized it has a carryover to ceramics. So the thing that came up is that we were having a bit of an argument about how to cope with an unusual shortage of buses on a particular route. Okay, so the geezer, shall we say, not me, was pounding on the fact that he had done that particular route for 7 years. So we should be doing what he told us to do. Not that he was a supervisor or anything like that. He was just, I have, more experience. Okay, except what he had experience with was normalcy, and we were trying to deal with an abnormal situation. And it turned out that his solution wasn't a solution at all, or he couldn't follow his own solution, or somehow he was losing it. Okay, so then there's me, not the geezer. It makes a nice change. And, I've driven before, and I went through training in the summer, and I realized that this is not a normal situation, and I'm trying to figure out how multiple drivers can solve this problem. And then there is this rookie. And for the first time ever, I got hit with, we should do it my way because I went through training in November. Okay, literally, a month on the job. And somehow he had such confidence in his training that he assumed that he'd been given all the information, all the relevant information, and the freshest information. Because, of course, his training was like 15 minutes old. So, of course, his trainers would have covered this. Except, of course, this was an abnormal situation. And, of course, training. Somehow he had this incredibly arrogant faith in his training and the freshness of his training. I forget what I did. I know I didn't hit him. I wasn't impressed. This guy, it was almost like he was so young, so fresh. He had no concept of how powerful ignorance is in an equation. I used to joke, ignorance is one of the more powerful forces in the universe, somewhere between magnetism and gravity. What we do not know is huge. In fact, it is so huge, we do not know how much we do not know. That's fundamental to the whole conduct of science. They keep finding new things, and then right behind them is some other new thing that they never even imagined because they didn't even know about the brand new thing. I don't know what it was about his upbringing that gave him so much confidence that he knew everything he needed to know and didn't need to learn anything new, or didn't need to adapt, or didn't need to realize that this was a situation that hadn't been covered by his training. And this can come up in the arts too, because you can have somebody who's been doing this for 30, 40 years, and they say, well, I have this much experience. Except a lot of that experience isn't relevant to something that's new. Okay, so when I first started, parameters and thermocouples, weren't all that accurate. We learned not to trust them, and to really, if we use them at all, if we could afford them at all, to notice rate of change and direction of change. Well, now the technology has come along. I've seen a kiln loaded with 12 different parameters down the length of it at a woodfire conference. And they were practically playing the firing like a video game, where every couple of feet they knew exactly what was going on. The same sort of thing happens with materials. It used to be red was really hard to get. Now apparently it's dead easy. Well, it's not that the geezers were being taught badly. It's that the market changed and the products changed. And that doesn't necessarily mean the geezers don't know how to use the new products. It just means that potentially their amount of experience with that particular product isn't any longer than anybody else's. But perhaps their experience at being adaptable, that's still relevant. I don't know. So wherever you are on the spectrum, remember how big a monster ignorance is. And be willing to learn from others, and don't assume your training covered it all. I don't think that's ever been the case in the history of mankind. Anyway, have a good evening.